All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Thiago. Thank you, Felipe, and everyone else. It is great to be here. Greetings from Rotterdam, the Netherlands. How many people do we have? 62 and counting. Awesome. So, yeah, let me share my screen and take you along for the ride. Let's do this, share screen, number one, there we go. If something is not right, I'm sure someone's going to tell me. And I'd like you to join me on this journey through Human Robot Agent, which is my latest book about redesigning work in the age of AI. Now, I'm sure Thiago has explained to you that I wrote books before. I'm sure some of you know them, Mansion 3.0 and How to Change the World, and Managing for Happiness is maybe the most popular one. But actually, the most recent book that I wrote last year was a sci-fi novel. That was Glitches of Gods. And when I nearly finished that book, ChatGPT came out. That was 2023. And I had already written the entire manuscript, but I thought, hey, this is an interesting tool. Let's see what the AI has to say about my story. So I fed it every scene of the book. I gave that to ChatGPT to get feedback on my writing. And that was great. It had suggestions for better sentences and better prose and so on. And there I saw the power of AI. It went far beyond the traditional spell checkers and style checkers that were already available. So I thought, with my next book, I'm going to go all in. I want to know how to evolve as a writer in the age of AI and basically lead by example. And that became Human Robot Agent. Now, I keep telling everyone I'm not an AI expert. I like to be an AI power user. So I use ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, Le Chat, several others, just to see what they can do, how they differ from each other, and I use them on a daily basis for anything, basically. And I noticed that you can see the human brain as the bottleneck. It is well to give. I'll give you an example. Research that usually costs me several hours to research a topic when I want to write about it. I have to do a good amount of Googling and so on to find the best articles, and I let that, I delegate that now to my team. Perplexity has a deep research feature. ChatGPT has a deep research feature. Gemini as well. It takes just minutes to do research on a topic, and that shaves hours off of my work schedule. And that's just one example. Another example is finding the links that you often find at the end of a chapter. That is annoying work for me as a writer. I hate that kind of work, and now I let my digital assistants do that. I found out that basically it is about our brain is a bottleneck for many kinds of work that we can easily delegate to our digital co-members, team members. I'm going to show you a good number of quotes from books and articles that I read and things that inspired me along this journey. People who use AI to do tasks enjoy their work more, and they feel they are better able to use their talents and abilities. And I have that myself as well. I enjoy being a writer more because I can focus more time on the insights and the thinking and the writing and less time on the stupid work like researching articles and finding links and things like that. So the ability to outsource crappy tasks to the AI, that can be freeing. And the worst part of my job, they go to the AI. Now, of course, we should not delegate everything. Uh, as this book says, we should not outsource the uncovering of insights to AI. I want to be the one who has insights as the writer. I come up with ideas about, I come up with opinions about the things that I read. And this is one of the true joys of learning, especially learning broadly. Uh, and it is important that we decide what things to delegate to an AI and what not. I'll get back to that in a moment. But what we see is that there's a tremendous amount of content now being generated with AI, and that even extends to software. You can now build new software in the same way that you previously created photos and videos. We call that vibe coding these days. It's all the rage. Just use Claude or Copilot or whatever code generation tool to quickly create a prototype of a game or an app or something. And 99% of that is throwaway code. It will not be used for long, that app, but it is a great way to experiment and explore ideas and create something that actually works, to show it to a customer and ask, is this what you like? Is that what you want? And that is fascinating. However, it also means there is a potential risk. As I wrote in an article last week, I called it the AI code tsunami. When we create many, many, many more apps with code generators, a small portion of them are going to be successful. And then the creators of those apps will want to enhance those applications. And then they will find that they are very buggy, that they contain mistakes that the AIs have created. And this is going to cause more volatility, more unpredictability in the world. I'm going to show you the Wicked framework, which is a model that I explain in my book. And I'll offer you an example of each of the 6 dimensions. And here I start with the dimension of volatility. That is the unpredictability of our world, where if everything is predictable, then we have a static world. If it is slightly unpredictable, we get into the complex area. And then finally, when things are very unpredictable, we get in the chaotic part of volatility. And I believe with vibe coding, with coding platforms, AI coding platforms, we're going to experience more volatility, more unpredictability in the way apps work. And I just wrote about it this morning. Uh, I am so old that I remember error messages giving nice descriptions of a problem, like insufficient memory or file Windows slash system slash something is missing. But these days, the only thing you see is something went wrong. That's the only thing that I see. I think I saw it 3 times today. Something went wrong. Why? Because even the developers and the product managers don't even know anymore what went wrong. Things have become so complex and so chaotic that we don't even know what the basic problems are 3, 4, 5, 6 layers underneath. And I think that is a sign that the world is getting more volatile. Anyways, I have a team now, as I say, with multiple AIs, ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, and I feel that I am now the generalist among those team members. Actually, there's a book on this topic by David Epstein. He said, the bigger the picture, the more unique the potential contribution. Our greatest strength is the opposite of specialization. It is the ability to integrate broadly. So the idea is that those AIs, they take over one specialization after the other. I use an AI for link finding. I use an AI for research. I use an AI for rewriting of my text. I use an AI for creating images, etc. But I am the generalist. I have to overlook everything and draw the connections among multiple domains. And basically, that makes me an M-shaped person. Now, maybe some of you remember the term T-shaped person. That is someone who has one specialization and then has some skills in other areas. For example, you are a software engineer first, but you can also do a bit of testing. You can do a bit of product management. That is the T-skilled person. One vertical leg and then a horizontal bar. Well, the future is for M-shaped persons. That is a horizontal bar with multiple vertical legs, 3, maybe even more. That means that you have multiple temporary specializations. I try to specialize as a writer. I am also now trying to become good at video editing for the moment, because right now AI tools are not good enough yet at creating complete videos end to end. There's still a lot of editing involved, and I want to make videos for e-learning, for example. So I dig into video editing, but I know that probably at some point I can just prompt an AI to do the video editing for me. And then I don't need to be the specialist anymore. I just give instructions to my specialist team member. So that's the thing that changes in the age of AI, that those machines take over one specialization after the other, and we have to get used to the idea that every specialization is temporary. We have to move on at some point to another area where we don't compete with artificial intelligence. And what kind of areas are those? Well, it is problem solving, critical thinking, working with abstract concepts. As someone said today, we're moving up the stack. We get to higher and higher level thinking horizontally, because that is what the AIs don't do. We have to do that work for our digital team members. But it also means that things get increasingly complicated and even inscrutable. That means incomprehensible. And that is the blue part of the Wicked framework. The intricacy of a problem is how difficult is it to understand? And with AI, things get more and more complicated, more and more difficult to understand. I mean, let's face it, there are few people in the world who actually understand how large language models work, how neural networks work. And another example, the chips that those AI labs use for LLMs, the GPUs, there is probably not a single person on the planet anymore who understands the whole chip, the entire GPU. They need entire teams to understand how the chips of today work, because they have become so complicated, so inscrutable, which is more complicated than complicated. And AI is doing that to us. It makes things more complicated. So again, there's this push to the outer ring of the Wicked framework. I'll show you examples of the other dimensions in a moment. So yeah, I have a team of various digital team members, and it feels like a partnership. It really feels like I have coworkers. I have fun with Zed, which is ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to give himself a name, and he is called Zed. I work with Gemini. She calls herself Vera. So I gave them personalities through the custom instructions of those AIs, and I gave them fun personalities so that they are a lot of fun to work with. It's really, I see it as a partnership, and the machines are doing what they do best. They do repetitive tasks, they analyze huge data sets, they do the routine cases, and humans do what they do best. I deal with ambiguous information. I use my judgment in difficult cases. And yeah, I deal with dissatisfied customers. If someone complains about the book that I wrote, then I'm not going to let ChatGPT write the answer. I write the answer. I deal with that customer. So we should all specialize, or we should all focus on what we're good at. And the machines are really good at memory. They're really good at dealing with a lot of data, and they're good at repetition and speed. That's not what the human brain is good at. As I said before, the human brain is a bottleneck when it comes to speed. Biological processes are slow. And the human brain is very unreliable when it comes to memory. Human memory sucks, basically, very unreliable. Better to leave that to the machines. And we don't like doing the same thing all day long. So our brain is also not good at repetition. We are good at creativity and insights and wisdom and so on. But it means that now that I work with a team of digital assistants, that the team is now smaller in the age of AI. As Henrik Nieberg wrote, one or two people with strong prompt engineering skills and access to AI will outperform traditional agile teams in both speed and quality. And he has experienced this on a regular basis himself. Now, I am so old that I remember maybe in 2005, 2008, we said the average team size, the ideal team size is 7 plus or minus 2. So that's 5 to 9 people. In my book, Management 3.0, I already reduced that to 5 plus or minus 2 because I found research that said that the optimum was around 5. So I said 5 plus or minus 2 is probably the ideal team size for an agile team. Well, fast forward 2025, I think now the agile team size has become 2 plus or minus 1. So there's 1, 2, or 3 people. That's it. And then the rest is AIs. The rest is digital team members. We are moving in that direction. I see that confirmed time and time again, that the teams are getting much, much smaller. There are now startups that make $100 million in annual revenue, and they're only 10 people or something like that. Cursor and Wiz and several others. Those companies are much, much smaller than they were in the past because they use AI for a lot of things. And we are now getting into the age of AI agents, is what some people say. Well, to be honest, I am a little bit skeptical about that because I have watched agents, I've tried, because I try everything. They're not good yet. The technology is impressive, but as long as agents are only based on LLMs, they are quite unreliable. They make a lot of mistakes. And as I read in one article, no reasonable company is going to replace their operations team with a suite of extremely expensive, error-prone agents. And I agree with that. That's not going to happen this year, but it will happen at some point. And all of these developments mean that teams become more modular. That means that it is easy to swap team members in and out. That is the red part of the Wicked framework, where maybe even lose. I mean, I work with multiple team members. I can decide not to use ChatGPT for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and ChatGPT doesn't mind. It really doesn't care. If I go back a couple of weeks later, it's not like he says that he missed me or anything. No, the machines don't care. That means that the teams, digital teams, the hybrid teams become much more modular. It is easy to swap them in and out, replace them for other AI agents. And yeah, again, this is a push outward to the outward circle to more loose teams. It ties into another topic that I will not cover for now, which is reteaming. I discussed that for several years as part of the unfix model, which is my last work. Reteaming is coming up, and also artificial intelligence is basically pushing teams to do more reteaming. And we're going to see more of that dynamic reteaming and swarming of teams across objectives. But I will leave that topic as it is. I would like to move on to experience. Experience is a bit of a favorite topic for me. People who follow me online on Facebook, they may have seen that I like complaining about bad experiences. And that is not just to get rid of my frustration, it is also to teach people that we should not accept bad experiences, and that we should not just offer products to our customers. No, we offer experiences, and we need to think about things from the experience angle, not from the technology and product angle. We're now getting into a stage where everything becomes hyper-personalized. In this book, Mastering the Data Paradox, there are many examples of hyper-personalization of experiences. I'm sure you know what Amazon does with personalization of the homepage. Everything you see on Amazon depends on your earlier purchases. The same applies to Netflix. They show a homepage specifically for you, depending on your binging behaviors. The same applies to Spotify and so on. Well, this hyper-personalization can be applied to anything, also in fashion, also in many other industries where we have more and more data about customers, about users, and can then hyper-personalize the experience for our users. That does mean that the concept of the persona, for example, is going to evaporate. Because why do we have personas and ideal customers for our products? Why do we define those? Because we try to offer all our customers the same product. And then we need to know what is the same among all our customers so that we give them what they want. But if we start giving different things to different customers depending on their preferences, then there are no personas anymore. An extreme example would be Amazon. Amazon literally wants to be the everything store. Amazon wants to sell everything to everyone. So what is the persona for Amazon? Everyone on the whole planet is the persona. So we're going in that direction with many products and services, that the idea of the persona is going to disappear because of hyper personalization. But again, the experience is what matters. I'll give you an example. So when you go to Amazon, you see, well, in my case, I see lots of books, sci-fi and fantasy books and artificial intelligence books, because that's what I buy these days. But when you purchase a book, you get exactly the same copy as everyone else. Now, from a technical perspective, we can do better, because quite a few of those books are printed on demand. Like my book, Human Robot Agent, is printed on demand. There is no inventory of my book. So Amazon prints the copy when you order it, which is very, very lean, right? Which is great. But if the Amazon prints the copy when you order it, then it should be possible to print your name in it. I mean, I could include a variable on the dedication page and say customer name here, and then Amazon could print your name in the book. That's possible. We could go even further. I must admit that I mentioned Elon Musk a few times in my book. Now, I know that he is a controversial person. I know that quite a few people don't like Elon Musk, and I also don't like him, but I think he did a few very smart things as a CEO. And I want to be able to talk about that, knowing that some people may not like this. So I thought, if Amazon already knows what kind of customer you are, Amazon could probably predict whether you are politically left or politically right. And in theory, it should be possible to include variables in my book and say, include this chapter or delete this chapter depending on the political preference of the customer. Technically, this is possible. But do we want to offer this as an experience? I asked a few people and everyone said, no, I don't want a book like that. So why is this not a good experience? Because customers want to know what is the real version? Is the real version with the Elon Musk chapter or without the Elon Musk chapter? That is important for people to know. They want only one version, just like everyone wants only one version of a TV show on Netflix. Nobody likes it if there are 10 different versions depending on your preference. That makes no sense. So this is an example of the experience matters. You have to think about that. We can do a lot of things technically, but it doesn't mean that we should do this. We have to think about what is a great experience for our customers. Another thing that Henrik Nieberg wrote about in his work is he said that he has used mock users by asking an AI model to role play particular types of users. He said we can do mock user research and interviews. So he basically used AI to evaluate the product that he was building before even showing to real customers. Now that makes a lot of sense. I do that too with my book. I fired all my beta readers because AIs are more reliable and they're faster. Because I can tell you how that works with beta readers. I loved my beta readers in the past. Really, they were very enthusiastic. But usually 100 people sign up to start beta reading a book. And then by the time I ask for feedback on chapter 1, 30 people have already given up. They didn't even get started. And then by the time I get to chapter 6, another 30 people have given up. And the further I get in the book, the more people drop out. It's a bit like going to the gym. In January, the gym is full, but every month, fewer people remain. So by the time I get to the end of the book, there is only one beta reader left. This is not useful for me as an author, that I have far too much feedback on chapter 1 and I do not have enough feedback on the last chapter of my book. And it takes me weeks to get the feedback from beta readers. So what do I do now? I configured my AIs to be my beta readers. They don't give up halfway. They give their feedback in seconds instead of in weeks, and they're much more accurate. And I can have 100 of them if I want it, where each of them focuses on a different thing. For example, my favorite beta reader is one instance of Gemini that validates the text that I write and then says which paradoxes, which laws, which principles connect to the thing that I write about. For example, when I write that an agile coach typically influences a team by simply observing the team, then Gemini would say, this is the Hawthorne effect. There's a scientific explanation for that. And then I would be like, yeah, of course, the Hawthorne effect. I should mention that in my book. That makes me look smart among my readers. But it is actually Gemini who told me this. Another example, I wrote, I am a short-term pessimist and a long-term optimist. Every day sucks, but ultimately everything will be fine. That's what I usually joke about. And then Gemini told me that is the Stockdale paradox. I had never heard of the Stockdale paradox. I didn't know what that was. So I looked it up, and indeed, that is exactly what the Stockdale paradox is. Every day is tough, but you will get through. So yeah, now I know what the Stockdale paradox is, thanks to my AI. So I love my team members. They're really, really good beta readers, and they give me great tips for what I should include in my book. So Henrik Niebuhr calls this mock reading or mock users, where you use AI to pretend that you have actual beta readers or actual beta users of your product, and it makes you speed up tremendously, as you can imagine. Now, there's an interesting thing that we have to consider, which is that, which is also an experience thing, which is that there are more and more technologies becoming available. There's more and more data, more and more AI capabilities. And what is now becoming rare or special is the human touch. You can see that in this quote. Engineers who design virtual nurses or AI therapists often say that their technology is better than nothing, particularly for low-income people who cannot catch the attention of the busy nurses in the clinics, or people who cannot afford therapy by humans, at least that they can try therapy by AI. So this is interesting because technology becomes abundant in the world. Everyone has access to ChatGPT and the other AIs. What gets special is the human touch. So it could very well be that the people who pay low level insurance, health insurance, they get the robots in the hospital. The people who pay more, they get the human doctor, because the human doctor is going to be rare. There will be many more robots than humans in hospitals. And the same applies to anything else. The funny thing is, when I wrote about this, Gemini said, "Oh, that is the digital divide." And I thought about that, and I thought, no, it is the opposite of the digital divide, because the digital divide 20 years ago was about some people having access to technology and other people not, because they could not afford internet or they could not afford computers. And that would be a divide. Well, this divide has closed because everyone has access to technology. Technology is cheap. It now becomes the opposite, right? Now, some people will have access to humans while the rest will have to do with the robots and the machines. So I say this is actually the reverse digital divide. And this is a nice example of the pink part of the Wicked framework, which is about reflexity. What is reflexity? That is, the observer influences the system influences the observer. Technology influences people, people influences technology. This gives a feedback cycle. And the stronger this feedback cycle back and forth, the more reflexive the system is. And AI makes things more reflexive with technology and people influencing each other. As someone wrote just yesterday, AI is trained by human input, but also influencing human input, and then trained again on the outcome. This is like a circle. It's a vicious or virtuous circle. And AI pushes that again to the outer ring of the Wicked framework. I have, I think, two more topics to go, and then hopefully we have some 5 minutes left for some questions. One thing that I found interesting in all my reading is the idea of algorithmic management. That means the middle managers being replaced by algorithms. Uh, I found the first examples of that when I was in China. I talked about that often. A company called Hire, where they already fired their complete middle management layers 13, 14 years ago and replaced them with algorithms, with a blockchain and smart contracts. But now we see that more and more in other parts of the world. Um, Platform companies already work like that for several years. Uber or other gig work platforms, they basically have freelancers, gig workers reporting to machines, to algorithms. The algorithms manage the gig workers. That's pretty normal. But also in regular companies. Amazon is an example of that. Amazon warehouse workers have digital bosses. And Amazon is maybe a bad example because Amazon is known for not so good working conditions of warehouse employees. Amazon has weaponized workplace devices, for example, in use at warehouses to try and prevent people from unionizing. Not a good example of algorithmic management. But there is also some research that shows good examples, good use of digital bosses, because AI can improve transparency in the workplace, align more closely with the expectations of workers, and reduce the perceived threats that may foster distrust. So, for example, some people actually like dealing with algorithms as their bosses because the computers don't play political games. The computers don't have favorite team members. The computers don't do kissing up and kicking down. The computers really don't care. They just care about the numbers. And for quite a few people, this actually feels liberating. There are many people working as freelancers for gig work platforms who like not having human bosses. They're just measured for what they produce, for the outcomes, rated by customers. They don't need human bosses. It's just annoying having to deal with human managers. And more companies are discovering this, that the middle managers actually do not have much to contribute. Because what is it that they do? They hoard information, they make decisions based on the information. Well, you can delegate that to some extent, or you can capture that in algorithms, and then you have a completely fair and transparent workplace where everyone knows what to do when the algorithms measure, and good luck. So it could be good, it could be bad, depending on how it is implemented. Amazon, not a good example. Other gig work platforms uh, uh, have much better implementations. So the progression from managing warehouses to managing entire corporations is not just possible, it is probable. Some say it is inevitable that we see more and more managers being replaced by algorithms. Interestingly enough, this has created some anxiety among corporate leaders because they find that they basically put themselves out of a job. By introducing algorithmic management, more and more managers lose their job, only the real workers remain. And what do you still need managers for? That is a big question mark. So where does that lead us in the Wicked framework? I highlight the green part here, scalability, because gig work platforms and other companies that do not have big middle management layers, they can scale out tremendously. It is much easier to scale when you do not have a hierarchical model. And many companies are discovering the benefits of that. They want the scale, so they have to get rid of the big fat middle management layers. One thing that is important is to stay in the loop as a human being. I try to delegate to some extent the work to my digital team members, but there is other work that I want to do myself. Like, for example, the first draft of an article, I prefer to write that myself. Um, and that has an important reason because I want to be good at writing. And if I stop writing myself as the first draft, I'm going to lose that skill of writing. It is called de-skilling. Many human skills deteriorate if they are not practiced on a consistent basis. When AI replaces that practice, the humans who are supposed to check the AI, they lose the skills that they need to evaluate the AI effectively. For example, pilots on airplanes are mandated by law to keep practicing flying airplanes in simulators. Because if they don't keep practicing, they lose the talent to intervene when the autopilot of an airplane fails. And they have to be able to intervene. They have to keep that talent in order to monitor what the co-pilot is doing and take action when necessary. Now, translate that to any other kind of work. If it is your job to look at a tool and then say whether it is doing a good job or a bad job, you need that skill. And you're going to have a problem if you don't practice that skill. It has long been known that people adapt to their tools, and automation can create complacency. I sometimes ask people during keynotes, how many of you have lost the skill of walking around a city without Google Maps? And then usually half of the hands go up because people lost their navigation skills. They have no idea where north, east, south, and west is. They just use their smartphones to find their place. Um, and maybe that is not a big problem when it comes to navigation because we always have such tools available, um, uh, unless your navigation software sends you onto a train track or into someone's garden or something like that. But overall, this is not usually a big issue. But it could be a big issue when it is your job, right? When you use AI tools, but you delegate too much to your digital team members, you are going to lose your skill, and you don't want that. So workers that don't work with AI are going to find their skills become obsolete quite rapidly. So it is imperative to work with AI to stay employed and also keep doing the work yourself and not delegate everything, because you're going to delegate yourself out of your job, basically. I painted the yellow part here, the ambiguity as an example, because it is fuzzy. AI introduces ambiguity in the world where we don't really know what is going to happen. Is algorithmic management good or bad? Is delegating work to a digital coworker, is that good or bad? Well, this requires us humans making smart decisions. There's no binary answer to any of these situations. That is why I think AI increases the fuzziness of the world that we live in, because there are so many of these decisions that we now have to make where there's no real good or bad answer. Just As one concrete example, just last week, OpenAI made big waves in social media with their latest update, where you can create pictures of anything, and everyone was making styles similar to Studio Ghibli in Japan, and other styles. I just tried it myself also today. Is a lot of fun, but there's a lot of ambiguity in terms of, is this legal? Is this ethical? The language models are trained on copyrighted materials of animation studios, and we can now create pictures that look as if Disney made them, or that look as if it is a South Park picture. Um, is that good or bad? We don't know. It's ambiguous. So there are plenty of these cases now where we basically uh, navigate in uncharted terrain. We have to resolve this fuzziness around us. There's one specific topic that is dear to my heart, which is about the juniors. Some people said to me, "Hey, Jurgen, what about the junior employees? Do they get jobs still because the seniors now delegate all their work to the juniors?" And there is no reason anymore to use young professionals. Why would I invest in training a young professional when AI can do the job faster, cheaper, and without the attitude of a Gen Z worker? Yeah, that is an issue. There is a whole book written on this topic. It's called The Skill Code. And the author says there is a compelling short-term case for cutting novices out of the action, because novices are not as good as the AIs, and they're slower than the AIs. So actually, the novices are a bottleneck. So you speed up your value stream if you get rid of the novices and the juniors. But as you can imagine, this is a short-term win, but a long-term loss. Because who is going to take over from the seniors next year if you don't have any juniors now? That is something to take care of. And there is another interesting effect. There's a thing called the curse of knowledge. Experts think they know everything about a topic because it is their domain. But sometimes it requires a junior or a novice to ask stupid questions that makes the expert think and gets them out of their box. This is called the beginner's mind. You need those juniors to basically show the seniors that the world has changed around them. And the seniors might not realize that things can actually be done differently now, maybe with AI or something, and that they have to rethink their expertise. I think that's another example of reflexivity. The seniors influence the juniors influence the seniors. This is increasingly an issue because of AI. Well, I showed you various examples of the Wicked framework, 6 dimensions, and I think that AI is basically pushing everything out, making things more volatile, more ambiguous, more scalable, more intricate, and so on. If you want to know more about it, read my book. As Tiago said at the beginning, the Unfix company and Management 3.0 have joined forces, and we discussed what is the next thing that we should collaborate on. Should we give it a new name after mentioned 1.0, 2.0, 3.0? 4.0 sounded dull, and maybe if we choose 4.0, then we quickly get to 5.0, 6.0. There's no end in sight when we update version numbers. So some of us said, why not Management 3000? That solves the whole problem. Management until the year 3000, that gives us another 975 years, which is a very long time. So we said, yeah, why not call it Management 3000 from now on? And then some of us started shortening it to M3K while we were talking with each other. So that has become the brand that we collaborate under. The community is now called M3K. It wraps up Management 3.0 and Unfix, and we do the team has introduced new licensing around M3K and everything from now on, the new book, the new content, the new e-learning that we're developing. It is all under this brand name. Last two words, what is left for us as employees, as managers, as coaches, and so on? I believe we have to move from knowledge to wisdom, because machines have taken over data, they have taken over information, now they are taking over knowledge. The knowledge is all there in the AIs. There's one thing left for us, which is wisdom. What is the wise thing to do? Is it wise to introduce algorithmic management? If yes, how can we do that in a way that benefits the employees, not the Amazon way? How can we deal with juniors? We still need juniors in the company, but we don't want them to slow down the value stream. What is the wise approach here? These kinds of discussions, I believe, is what Agile coaches are for now. As an Agile coach, it's not your job to explain what Scrum is or to explain something that people can easily find with AI. No, it is to have discussions about what is the wise thing to do in your context. How can you reorganize yourself in the age of AI? And machines have collapsed this hierarchy, and humans now have to move into the realm of wisdom. And as Reid Hoffman, a famous investor, said, it's been a long time since the future seemed so unmapped. There's so much uncertainty these days. And I try to picture that with the Wicked framework. Everything becomes more uncertain in the age of AI, which means that there's something important for us still to do as managers, as leaders, as Agile coaches, which is to help people deal with the uncertainty. We cannot remove the uncertainty, but we can be more agile than ever. We have to reinvent many practices that we have practiced in the past. In the age of AI, things will look different. We will have smaller teams. We will be reteaming. Juniors will need different kinds of career paths, and so on. I write about these things on this new newsletter, the Maverick Mapmaker. I try to publish once or twice per year about everything that I find in the world of Agile, AI, and the future of work. So I hope that I'm going to see some of you as subscribers to the newsletter. And obviously, I hope that you're going to buy the book, Human Robot Agent, New Fundamentals for Leadership in the Age of AI. Well, that's it for now. Maybe there's a couple of questions that I will be happy to answer. I'm happy to go a little bit over time. That's not a big issue. Leave it to you, Tiago. Thank you for listening.
Agradecer. E uma pessoa que está assistindo a gente hoje vai ganhar um livro que a gente vai sortear.
Awesome.
E tem uma pergunta só que eu acho que já foi respondido ao longo do evento, mas acho que você vai gostar, que é o que é o Wicked Framework, né? Eu sei que está no livro, mas da onde veio, né? De quem é esse framework?
Well, the wicked framework comes from the term wicked problem. And a wicked problem is a problem that has no solution. Like, for example, how do we keep our employees happy? That has no one defined solution. It is always a problem. It is always something that you need to work on. Another example is, what is a good strategy for our business? Again, that is a wicked problem. You cannot say at some point, okay, now we've solved the strategy for our company. No, because the next day things change and you have to rediscuss your strategy. So these problems that basically always stay problems that have never have an end point, we call those the wicked problems. And that is the kinds of problems that we see when the world is very uncertain around us. So that's why I call this framework the wicked framework.
Muito bom. E vale citar que foi o Jürgen que criou, né, o framework, é uma criação dele. E uma última pergunta, então, só para fechar, que a Adriana vale a pena aqui. Ela quer umas duas palavrinhas sobre o profissional M, o M-shape skill.
Um, Yeah, so as I explained, the M stands for the horizontal bar, which is the generalization, and then multiple specializations. Not one specialization, but more than one. Like I am a speaker and a writer and an e-learning creator and a video editor. That's 3 or 4 things that I try to specialize in for the moment. Um, until maybe at some point AI takes over and then I try to do something else. I think I will be a writer until the day I die, but video editing is a temporary thing. And maybe speaking, I'm sure at some point I will stop traveling and stop speaking and I will just do other things at home or something. So you have to get used to the idea that every specialization or almost every specialization is temporary and that you have to move on, keep learning other things.
Muito bom, acho que respondeu bem, não só para a Adriana, mas para mim também. Interessante. E queria agradecer muito o Jürgen pelo seu tempo, por você ter trazido esse conteúdo tão valioso para a gente, em nome de todo o público brasileiro. Tenho certeza que vai ser incrível para todo mundo a partir de agora ter ouvido.
Thank you so much. Great being here.
O pessoal está agradecendo aqui. Então, pessoal, não deixem de se inscrever para receber o livro. Vai ser sorteado na sexta-feira, ao meio-dia. E fiquem de olho. O livro está muito bom, já consegui ler inteirinho, então vale a pena, recomendo. E vamos. Muito obrigado, pessoal. Boa tarde. Até a próxima.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.